Hi, my name is Sean Carney from the band Wolves, and this is VOX Tone Tips. So I discovered VOX through my friend Steve in high school. He was the first kid on the block with a VOX amp, and I plugged it in, and that was the sound. I knew from right then and there that I wanted that sound. The thing that I love most about VOX amps is the versatility that I can get out of the amp. I can play the heaviest metal I can think of, or the cleanest blues or jazz that I can imagine as well. I also just love the clarity and just how loud the amp gets, and it stays clean that whole time. I picked up guitar when I was in high school because all my friends had guitars, and I saw it as such a social instrument and a way to just connect with my friends. And so every day after school, we'd all grab our guitars and sit around the living room and just jam for hours. Some of my favorite features of the VOX AC30 are the tremolo effect that I have on board at any time. I usually have my VOX pedal with me, and I don't have to rely on another tremolo effect on my pedal board. Saves me some room, and it's just such a nice, deep tremolo sound that really gives that vintage kind of vibe. I use my VOX AC30 in a couple different ways. Sometimes in the studio, I like to use the natural overdrive by just kind of tweaking the volume and the gain knobs until I can get something a little overdrive, a little crunchy. That's a fun way to get some really interesting and fat, rich sounds from the tubes. So my settings for the VOX AC30, I usually have my EQ just somewhere in the middle. It really depends on the venue that I'm playing in, and it also just depends on the tone that I'm going for in the studio or live. I really like the VOX tremolo that's built in, as well as the reverb. I don't have to have a reverb pedal on my pedal board because the reverb is so nice coming through the VOX. All right, so this is my full rig rundown for when I play with Wolves. I've been using this green Tele pretty recently. It's a custom-made Tele from a guy in Tucson, Arizona, and I absolutely love it. It's super fun. We got P90 pickups on there, and that runs into my Mission Engineering wah pedal, which I use on a couple songs like Animal. And then my wah pedal goes into my Tech 21 double drive, which is it's a double overdrive in one, where I can kind of blend my sound a little bit. And then I've got the SP compressor by Exotic, and that's just really, really nice clean compression. Then I've got the TC Electronic Dark Matter, which is a heavy distortion that I use sometimes as a heavy distortion, but mostly just as a boost to kind of take it to that next level for a solo, perhaps. Then I've got the Echo by Hotone pedals, and it's this tiny little weird robot pedal that makes all kinds of weird sounds that helps me out when I want to come up with something really creative or funky in the studio. And then I've just got a Polytune chromatic tuner, and you gotta have one of those on your pedal boards, kids. So our recording process is a little bit all over the place. I write and produce everything from my home studio with Mark from Wolves, and we're very spontaneous writers, and I don't really know what Mark is going to do or say at any time. So as an engineer producer, I have to be ready at all times. So I have my AC30 and my AC10 set up, ready to hit the record button, with an SM58 hooked up at all times, because you've got to be ready in the studio for that creative moment to hit you. Some of my biggest influences are Tom Morello and Dave Grohl. I love Tom Morello because he was one of the first guys that brought the guitar into the hip hop scene in a really big way, and kind of merged alternative rock and hip hop. And I really think that Wolves is kind of following in that trajectory that Tom Morello started. And I also just really like how he's very outspoken about social justice issues, and that really inspires me as well. Music is a really powerful language, and if you know how to use it correctly, you can reach a lot of people. Songs kind of come from anywhere. I'm not exactly sure where they come from, but again, you just gotta be ready for it to come in any way possible, emotionally, physically, having the right gear, just being present and being willing to listen to somebody else in the recording situation can make or break a record. I have a really great tour story. This is probably the best one that I could think of. About 8 years ago, I met this really, really cute English girl on tour, and I'm happy to say that yesterday we just celebrated our 7-year wedding anniversary. So as far as tour stories go, that's probably the best one I got. So before a Wolves show, we like to actually take a moment of silence, and Mark will lead us in a prayer or something cool. And I'm not really religious myself, but having that moment of just silence and clarity and meditation, I would say, before we get on stage really sets up the whole Wolves show before all hell breaks loose on stage. Wolves has been really fortunate to adapt to the online-only world right now because we've hooked up with a couple partners who have just really mastered the online performance and the streaming aspects of live performance that we are limited to right now. But those limitations, with any limitation, with creativity, usually sparks some kind of innovation. And we've been really lucky to hook up with Beta Wave Studios in Montrose, California. They were riding the wave of one of the first companies to really have a lock on how to produce a live stream show. And we've been really fortunate to have a couple opportunities with them, and of course with VOX. And it's just been really fun and a great way to connect with our fans.